He was the man who could roundhouse kick a building into submission, a stoic icon of Texas justice and Cold War action. For decades, the legend of Chuck Norris, the martial artist who became a living meme, often overshadowed the reality of the man. But in the quiet twilight of his life, at 85, the jokes and the one-liners faded away. In his final interviews before his passing in March 2026, Norris set the record straight, not about his own legacy, but about someone else's. With a rare vulnerability, he finally told the unfiltered truth about his friend, his rival, and the man he still considers the greatest fighter who ever lived, Bruce Lee. It is a story not of a fight but of a friendship that changed martial arts forever. The year was 1968. The place was Madison Square Garden. Chuck Norris, a disciplined, clean-cut karate champion in the traditionalist mold, had just won the professional middleweight karate championship. In the audience was a slender, talkative actor from Hong Kong named Bruce Lee, famous for playing Kato on the Green Hornet. At the time, Norris saw martial arts as a rigid structure of rules and ranks, while Bruce Lee saw it as a fluid, unbounded form of expression. When they were introduced by the promoter, the two men couldn't have looked more different. Norris the towering, muscular All-American, Lee the wiry, philosophical provocateur. Contrary to the versus narrative the world would later construct, Norris recalled that their connection was immediate. "We started talking, and we got really engaged in the conversation," Norris recounted in a 2024 interview, reflecting on that night. Bruce Lee, ever the networker, leaned in and said to the champion, "Don't you live in LA? I do too, why don't we start training together?" Norris agreed, and what followed was not a rivalry, but a 2-year apprenticeship of mutual respect in Bruce Lee's Los Angeles backyard. For Norris, those sessions were a baptism by fire. He was a tournament fighter, used to points and rules. Bruce Lee was a street fighter, obsessed with speed, efficiency, and ending a conflict in seconds. As Norris trained with Bruce Lee, he began to notice the subtle, almost supernatural details that set his friend apart from every other world-class athlete he had ever faced. The clues were all there. First, there was the speed. Bruce Lee was simply too fast, too full of speed, Norris told Black Belt magazine. But he wasn't just quick, he was explosive in a way that defied his 135-pound frame. Norris was larger, stronger in a traditional weightlifting sense, but Bruce possessed a snapping power that Norris couldn't replicate. He recalled how Lee could stand inches from a surface and strike it with a force that sounded like a gunshot, a technique known as the one-inch punch that Norris swore violated physics. Then there was the evolution. Norris revealed a crucial clue that few in the West know: Bruce Lee changed his style because of Norris's advice. Initially, Bruce rarely kicked above the waist, adhering to the Wing Chun principle of efficiency. Norris told him, "You should be able to kick anywhere, anytime. If a guy leaves his head open, you take it." 6 months later, Bruce Lee had mastered the high head kick, a move that would become his cinematic signature. He was a student master, Norris explained. He wasn't afraid to be wrong. If he saw something worked, he took it. This adaptability, Norris argued, was Bruce's ultimate weapon. He wasn't a karateka or a kung fu stylist, he was a scientist of violence. The emotional core of Norris's confession came when he discussed the sudden, tragic death of Bruce Lee in 1973. For years, conspiracy theories swirled about the death of the dragon, curses, assassins, and secret societies. At 85, Norris finally laid those ghosts to rest, but not without a tremor of old pain in his voice. He ruptured a disc in his back, Norris explained on a podcast, detailing a severe injury Bruce suffered that threatened to leave him paralyzed. Doctors gave him a slim chance of walking again, but through sheer will, Bruce recovered. To manage the pain, he was prescribed a common medication for headaches. The medication he took for his back and the medication for his headache reacted together, Norris said. It made his brain swell up, that's actually what happened. Norris rejected the mystical conspiracies. The truth was crueler and more mundane, a tragic medical accident. But what broke Norris's stoic demeanor was the memory of the aftermath. "I was shocked, nobody expected it." The doctor told him he was in the physical condition of an 18-year-old. To lose someone so vital, so alive, to a simple chemical reaction was a wound that never fully healed. Yet, out of that tragedy, Norris found a sense of duty. He remained close to Bruce's widow, Linda Lee Cadwell, and watched over Brandon Lee as he grew up, only to be devastated decades later when Brandon died similarly tragically on set. So, after a lifetime of dodging the question, what is the truth about who would win in a fight? Chuck Norris finally answered directly. He didn't dodge. He didn't joke. The truth is that the fight is irrelevant because Norris believes Bruce Lee was operating on a different plane entirely. We trained together many times, and he was always experimenting with new things. That's what set Bruce Lee apart from other fighters, or even martial arts masters. He wasn't afraid to try new things and create something new, Norris stated. When asked directly if he could have beaten Bruce Lee, Norris admitted to a physical reality. Norris was bigger but conceded a technical mastery to Lee. He noted that asking who would win misses the point. Chuck Norris was the greatest sport fighter of his era, Bruce Lee was the greatest real fighter. Bruce Lee was too strong for his physique, Norris would say, marveling at the density and power of the smaller man. The final truth, however, was revealed in their famous Coliseum fight in Way of the Dragon, 1972. Norris revealed the inside joke of that scene. When Bruce called him to Rome to be the villain, Norris asked, "Bruce, who wins this fight?" Bruce Lee, never one for false modesty, grinned and said, "I win, I'm the star of this movie." But Norris clarified the deeper truth of that scene. Bruce Lee used him to make a philosophical point. Norris represented the rigid, traditional martial artist. Bruce represented the adaptable formless style of Jeet Kune Do. Initially, Bruce loses to Norris using old forms, but once he goes water, he wins. Norris, the consummate professional, agreed to look beaten on screen to prove Bruce's point to the world. That, Norris said, was the ultimate sign of their friendship. He helped Bruce prove that style had met its match in substance. Chuck Norris passed away on March 19, 2026, at the age of 86. In the days following his death, the world didn't just mourn the actor or the meme, they mourned the last witness to the golden age of martial arts. With Norris gone, the direct link to Bruce Lee's physical prime was severed. But the impact of his truth-telling is seismic. By finally speaking without ego, Norris cemented Bruce Lee's legacy not as a movie star, but as the father of modern mixed martial arts, MMA. When you see UFC fighters switching stances, using low kicks to chop down larger opponents, and blending boxing with grappling, you are seeing the Bruce Lee philosophy that Norris vouched for. Norris's final gift to the world was humility. He spent 50 years as the toughest man in America, but used his final breath to bow to the little dragon. As one fan wrote on social media following the news, they might be fighting in heaven right now. But knowing the truth Chuck Norris told us, they aren't fighting. They are finally, peacefully, training together in the backyard again,